I'm going to ask you, what did you see yesterday from Houston that looked promising moving forward?
They played Connor Cook.
That's it?
I mean, look, we're talking about how Brock Osweiler played and how good he played. He was 14 of 25 for 168 yards, and that was probably his best game all year. That's how bad his season has been, basically, that is, if any other quarterback had those numbers, we'd be looking at it like, I mean, it was just garbage. But look, he didn't turn the ball over.
Right.
And for him, that's, a little out of character.
That's rare.
Yeah, I mean, they had a decent running game. Their defense, Jadeveon Clowney showed up. The defense showed up. I mean, I think Connor Cook's helped them a little bit. Look, he's going to be their backup next year, too. So Oakland's, kind of getting a glimpse of their future backup because McGloin's a free agent. So, I mean, my question is, Jack Del Rio said that they talked him out of replacing. Son of a bitch. Thank you.
It's on. Go ahead.
Okay.
What the hell's going on around here?
My question is, who talked Jack Del Rio out of replacing him? He wanted to do it, and his coaches said no. And I was like, he was 4 of 18 in the first half. I mean, what did you see from Connor Cook that would not want you to, that you wouldn't put him on the bench after that performance?
I got a big beef with Jack Del Rio. To come from where he started the season this year, if everybody rewinds the tape back to regular season, week 1, where all he had to do is kick the field goal and it's going to overtime, but he elected to go for the 2-point conversion and show everybody that the Raiders are a different Raiders team. And you can't pull the plug on Connor Cook at halftime and at least give the team hope with McGloin. I mean, the team was going nowhere. He had a 15 passer rating at halftime. And he's like, I talked to the coaches, and they didn't think that it was really all on Connor Cook, that, we did some good things, but we did some bad things. No, you're playing for your life. So what if McGloin goes in there and stinks up the joint? Who cares? You're going home anyways.
Right.
So at least give them a little bit of change. Yeah. I thought it was a bad coaching job yesterday. Yeah. Obviously poor quarterback play, and give it up to Jadeveon Clowney because he's actually showed up this season. He's no longer a clown. He played well, and kudos to them. Granted, he had to because J.J. Watt's been out all season. Let's see when J.J. Watt comes back if they can be the duo that everybody thought they would be.
What was the game plan? Connor Cook threw the ball 45 times. I mean, if Derek Carr's your quarterback, okay, that makes sense. I mean, that should have been Latavius Murray all day long. Connor Cook should have thrown the ball maybe 20 times. I mean, at best. You have to adjust your game plan because that's not the same guy. I mean, it's like, to use baseball analogy, when you're in the World Series or in the playoffs and you bring in a pitcher and he gives up 1 or 2 runs, you got to get him out of there.
Right.
And you needed to do that with Connor Cook
and
yesterday.
Latavius Murray early on looked like he had fresh legs. He looked fast. He scored an early touchdown for them. He looked pretty good. And actually in the first game, what Oakland did, and they didn't do this game, was also utilize Jalen Richard and Dwayne Washington, right? At the running back position, split them out in the backfield, and they're catching passes underneath. They didn't do a lot of that either. So the game plan was terrible, the coaching was terrible, and the quarterback play was terrible. And that leaves Oakland going home. Sorry, Carl. Everybody knew it. They're gone.
Right, and that just goes to show you how important Derek Carr is to this team.
I say Derek Carr for MVP.
Right, yeah. Derek Carr was obviously one of the reasons why Oakland made it that far into the season, like you said. They did great the first, 75% of the season, and that's pretty much tanked. But I got to say, too, it's not only Cook. I mean, obviously, Cook was part of the problem. Cook was obviously having issues. But, there are a couple of screen passes, so I think Washington and even Latavius Murray.
There was a couple drops.
Yeah, a couple
I saw Cooper drop one. Crabtree dropped one in stride, actually.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you got to understand,
Crabtree dropped more than one.
Right, so you got to understand, too, that Cook is a rookie out there. You have the receivers and the veteran running backs have to be on their game to try to get Cook to be pretty much, just to get him on his game.
No rhythm at all,
yeah, exactly. That's the word I was looking for, just to get him on his rhythm. But they didn't really do that for the most part. I mean, they had to carry the load, but they didn't do that for Cook. You have to be on your game to get Cook on his rhythm and just to get him on point.
Well, talk about a team that's demeanor has just gone from, pretty decent when Derek Carr was in there. Thought they were going to have a chance to compete for the championship. I mean, the quarterback goes down, but it seemed like the entire team. The defense stopped playing. Wide receivers can't make routine catches all of a sudden. Nobody wants to block anybody. We're not talking about a Houston team that was 15-1 this year, 14-2. They're 9-7. This is a beatable team. You know what I'm saying? So, granted, you're on the road, but they played this team before with Derek Carr and won 27-20. It should have been a lot closer of a game.
How was Cook even the starter? Because McGloin was active. And Cook dressed one game all year, all season long, and it was the last game. So if he's active to play, why is he not your starter?
I think Del Rio just saw something in Cook that obviously we didn't see. I mean,
he was cooking in practice.
I mean, we're obviously looking from the outside in. Del Rio has the inside look at what McGloin is doing, what Cook's doing, and obviously he saw something in Cook. What that something was, I don't know. But the point is, he started him. It was a mistake on Del Rio's part, is what it seems like, and Oakland's going home.
Yeah, but clearly what you have to look at is, and I have to go back to what both Craig and Frank said, you knew what type of game plan you had going into this game. You had a quarterback who never started in the NFL. This guy's first NFL start was in a postseason playoff road game.
Yep.
It should have been the Latavius Murray show all day long. Michael Crabtree, I saw that game, and I'm like, how are you not catching passes? How are you not? This is the playoffs, for Christ's sake. You guys are all the same. The only difference is Derek Carr. Now, the one thing I will say, and giving credit to the Houston defense, is Jadeveon Clowney. For all the talk that I gave him previously about how this guy was a complete bust, I can't believe Houston picked him up. Thank God they've got J.J. Watt. Then J.J. Watt went down. He actually, Craig, to your point, yes, he showed up yesterday. That's why I think the run game wasn't successful, because every time Murray got the ball, I saw Clowney within feet, inches of him. So I don't think they could actually get the run game going.
Houston did stack the box because they weren't worried about Connor Cook's arm, basically. I mean, this may be the only game where we could say that Brock Osweiler was the best quarterback on the field.
And that's a scary.
The
Texans
secondary has gotten better as the season went on too. AJ Boye has played really well on the left cornerback position, and obviously Jonathan Joseph has been kind of a staple there for a little while now. So I mean, the defense is playing well. You know, we're going to see if they can do that either in New England or in Kansas City. It's going to be a lot taller of a task. You know, obviously. Next
it's going to be a bigger. Yeah, it's going to be a bigger order.
Well, yeah, it's just not going to happen for Houston.
But let's look at the potential. Okay.
I mean, look. Let's just. I'm calling a spade here. Yeah. I'm just saying. Hey,
so you're just being realistic here, Dylan?
Yeah, of course. Am I already picking for next week?
No.
Yes, I am.
You got a crystal ball? Oh, where's Cleo? Cleo.
Here's the only thing I'll say about that is what is in Bill O'Brien's favor in that regard. If they do go to Foxborough, which by all accounts I believe they will.
Okay, again, you can't say that.
I know.
Not yet.
Hypothetically.
Okay, thank you.
If the Texans go to Foxborough, all Bill O'Brien has to do is play that game when New England just thumped them the last time they played. I mean, so he can all week long basically remind them of that fact. Not that it's going to help them, but at least, you know, he can get them in that mindset, okay, the last time we played these guys, they embarrassed us.
Right. And I got to say, too, you know, while I'm here making Cleo predictions, I just got to say, even though I'm saying Houston is not going to go very far, the fact that when Houston plays the New England Patriots, hypothetically, basically, if Osweiler has a decent game, I mean, they're not going to win, but if he has a decent game, I think there probably won't be any talk, you know, next season, going into next season for Houston, who the quarterback would be for Houston. More than likely would be Osweiler anyway. But
I mean, they paid him money.
Well,
okay.
I mean, the thing
hold
is,
on, hold on, though. They only locked in for 2 years. They only guaranteed $38 million. So this next year, they could essentially be like, you know what? I think we need to restructure, because look at what Tom Savage, look at what he did for the 2 games that he did in fact play. Now, he's a backup. I get that. But instead of paying all that money to a guy who you thought was going to be successful, and then you saw his body at work throughout this entire season, he didn't get benched because of injury. He got benched because he sucked.
Well, yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
for the most part.
What I'm saying to you is, do you possibly take a chance on a Tom Savage in a division that is completely winnable? Look what they did. We said it throughout the season. There is no reason why after 10 weeks Houston was 6-3. They were probably the worst 6-3 team out there. But guess what? When it needed to get done, they won. They're in the postseason. Meanwhile, Indy, Jacksonville, and Tennessee are not. So you could still win in this division. The only team going next year, and I'll crystal ball it for you. You can call me Miss Cleo if you want to. I'm saying the only
So you
team,
can crystal ball and we can't?
Yes.
Okay.
You can crystal ball it. I guess
he has like a magic 8 ball. He has to shake it. He's like,
it's
try
a
again.
little, what's the word?
Biased or
seems a little biased.
You know Miss Cleo is dead, right?
Did she die?
She's dead.
Yeah,
she
we're
died.
honoring her. We're paying homage.
A moment of silence for Miss Cleo.
But what I'm saying is, Frank, you can definitely crystal ball it for me because 85% of the time you're right anyhow. But what I'm saying is, looking at that division next year,
85% of the time you're 85% right.
who's to say that Houston doesn't roll with Tom Savage and they win again? They could be back-to-back AFC South champs again in that division next year.
Go and get Romo. Romo would be available.
You could.
You don't want to stay in Texas.
They've won it the last 2 years.
So they've
won the AFC South. This was their
so they
second
can
year in a row.
repeat. You know?
But the point is, if Osweiler has a good, if not great showing this next game he plays, chances are he's their starter without question next
One
year.
good thing, he actually looked for DeAndre Hopkins yesterday.
Yes.
And he made a really nice catch down the sideline and then a touchdown pass. So, and then after the game, he's like, "Oh, I'm always going to be looking for DeAndre Hopkins." I'm like, well, somebody must have sat him down.
Yeah.
Because he did in the first 10 games of the season.
Maybe the benching, or maybe he watched Tom Savage. I mean,
he rotted on one of my fantasy benches.
Yeah, I had DeAndre Hopkins in my starting lineup. I couldn't bench him because it was
can't.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, you just can't.
He was my first overall pick.
Right. Well, no, there's nothing wrong with that, obviously. But
Listen, this is what happens, unfortunately, when it comes to fantasy. If you don't have a quarterback who knows and understands who his primary targets are, then unfortunately you're left with, okay, this might be the week, but you cannot be guaranteed with it. So, okay, moving forward.
Houston might not even have the same coach next year, too.
This is very true. And we talked about this before the show, and that's where I was going. Thank you, Frank. Moving forward, Bill O'Brien. Steve, you all right? You good? Oh, okay. I thought you said. All right. Well, I didn't know. Oh, here we go. Listen to me. Okay, he's not part of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, our one true fan, Steve, has disowned us. So, Jack, I'll talk to you later. All right. Yes, he does. I want to know about the coaching carousel that exists in Buffalo, and we'll get to that. But, okay, moving forward, since Bill O'Brien may or may not be the head coach, let me ask you, and Kristen, I'll start with you. If Bill O'Brien leaves, who could you potentially see as someone coming in to keep this Houston team atop the AFC South?
Josh McDaniels?
I knew that was coming. I knew it. Great Al Bushman, I swear to God. You and Josh McDaniels. Are you like Twitter buddies or something? Are you and Josh?
We are. We actually are.
Every single time there's a head coaching vacancy, all I hear from the great Al Bushman is Josh McDaniels would be a good fit there, and here's why he'd be a great fit in there. I'm like, really? Kristen, can I ask you this question again, please?
Yes, I don't see a coaching change. They're 14-0 and leading at halftime. I think he's doing a pretty good job. He's winning the division. But Romeo Crennel's doing great. Maybe they move him up. He didn't do so great with the Browns, but look what he's done with this defense now.
Do you think he could transition and be a head coach? I mean, as a defensive coordinator, listen, he's awesome. I don't know if he can handle that responsibility, seeing as how he's had it before.
But everyone at the Browns, everyone at the Browns fails. Bill Belichick failed with the Browns, and look what he's doing now. So
you could be Jesus and fail with the Browns.
Hey, we're not.
Jesus could win games with the Browns.
Thank you.
I mean, and it still would be kind of tough. But the point is that I think Romeo Crennel, I think he's a pretty good coach. I mean,
so again, you would move him up to head coaching if Bill O'Brien decides to leave.
I mean, there probably are some better decisions. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
Okay.
But,
Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan?
He was the offensive coordinator there with the Houston Texans, and he knows Rick Smith. Rick Smith comes from that Denver, John Elway, Gary Kubiak tree in some capacity. So, and the whole problem with O'Brien and Rick Smith is that they just don't get along. So it could be a mutual parting of ways. So you need to bring in somebody that you know, you're familiar with, have a relationship with. He knows Kyle Shanahan, so... Yeah.
I mean, and the only way I'd go with Romeo, obviously he's familiar with the offense. He knows the team. He knows the players. I would hire him on that basis. And again, just to reiterate, I think he's a pretty good coach. So, I mean,
Craig?
but
I don't think they're going to make a coaching change, number one. And I think if they did, they would not go Romeo Crennel because their problem, he's a defensive-minded coach.
Yeah.
The defense is awesome in Houston. So you want to bring in an offensive-minded coach to work with a Brock Osweiler or whoever you deem needs to be in that position at quarterback. Maybe groom another, get in some more offensive linemen. The receivers are pretty good. I like Will Fuller, the rookie this year.
Yeah.
Maybe get another one or even a tight end. But Fedorowicz isn't bad. They actually have a really good nucleus of a team there.
Yeah.
They're maybe one or two players away from possible. He's basically a quarterback away.
It's a good job. I mean, and look, the owner already said that he's not firing Bill O'Brien. I mean, it's going to be Bill O'Brien leaving on his own for the coaching change, and that's what people that are close to him are speculating.
Do you think the owner might sit down with Bill O'Brien and say, if I get rid of the general manager, can I lock you into a longer?
He ain't going to do that probably. I'm sure he's already talked to them. And look, they've already made statements saying that it's a competitive league, industry, tempers flare, people don't always get along, people don't see eye to eye, you just make it work. So they've already addressed it internally.
Okay.
Ultimately, it's going to be Bill O'Brien's decision,
right,
from what it looks like, as to whether or not he's just had enough.
Okay.
Or he can get another. Look, if his agent says, hey, I can get you the Rams job or this and that, then that's what's going to determine it.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. All right, let's talk about the other game that happened last night. Steve, I have supported your Detroit Lions all season long. And then, except for the 1 week when we played each other, right? What? No, you didn't whoop us. It was a pass interference call that started that shouldn't even have happened. We should have got the call, and we would have won that game. So, you know what? I don't even know why I'm talking to you. But more importantly, what happened last night? Hold on, let me take the mic to you. You sick. No, I am, because this is what I want to know, Steve.
Make sure you hug it out.
No, we're not hugging it out. This is what I want to know. So last night, I'm sitting here, and I'm watching this game, and I'm saying to myself, are you kidding me right now? Seattle, Detroit. I expected Detroit to at least show up. I expected Stafford to show up. I expected ZZ Top to show up and Zach Zettner. I expected Golden Tate, something. 6 points? 6 points against Seattle.
Hell, Megatron wasn't doing nothing last night.
Yeah, they could have called
Calvin
him
Johnson
too.
to come play last night.
We got the greatest field goal kicker in football, so yes, we kick field goals.
Hey, Steve, who's your kicker?
Matt Prater.
Well, somebody cut Steve off, so I'm not too sure how that happened because you weren't even here, El Bushman, but probably for good reason because, like Steve didn't show up on the mic right there, the Detroit Lions didn't show up for their playoff game yesterday.
Yeah, you can't beat good teams. All your frustrations have come out. These penalties that were horrible. They're pushing guys around. They wouldn't have won if the calls went their way anyways.
Well, Steve, serious question here. I mean, I'm again, serious question, and I want you to answer it seriously, okay? Do you think the head coach of the Detroit Lions should be gone? Okay. And I agree with you there.
So you're saying Jim Caldwell needs to go.
Yeah.
You're saying Jim Bob Cooter needs to go. Is that what you're saying? Cooter should get a coaching job, but Jim Caldwell needs to go. That's what you're saying. He needs to go bye-bye. All right. Hold on. Here you go, Frank.
Caldwell's not going anywhere. They've already said that he's coming back. Even before this game, they said he was coming back. So you're stuck with him. When the best thing you can say about your team after a playoff game is about your kicker, you pretty much figure things didn't go according to plan.
Pretty much.
Look, Detroit has some pieces. I mean, they've got a quarterback. They showed without Calvin Johnson. I mean, Marvin Jones, Anquan Bolden. I mean, they had some talent. They need their defense. Theo Riddick was hurt too much. Zenner.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is Detroit just could not get any offense going at all. I mean, kudos to Seattle's defense because, I mean, they pretty much held it down. And it looked like almost like the Seattle defense of old. But, I mean, Detroit offensively, I mean, Frank, you mentioned that Stafford obviously on his game this year, Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, these guys were great this year. They had their ups and downs. But for whatever reason, yesterday, just couldn't get any offense going, like I said.
What about Thomas Rawls? I mean, he set a playoff record yesterday,
Playoffs
161
record.
yards. I
Yeah.
mean, that's, look, he looked like Marshawn Lynch.
Seattle back to what they do, and they always turn it up when it comes playoff time. So this team is a team to be reckoned with once again. They play great defense, especially at home because they get a lot of calls through the refs at home. But you have to know that going in there. It's loud. They run the football, and Russell Wilson just does enough to get the win. And again, they had miraculous
Yeah, where did Richardson come from all of a sudden?
no names.
Yeah.
Once again, it happens every postseason.
Paul Richardson
he had
this
13
time.
catches all
making
season.
2 ridiculous catches yesterday. It's unbelievable though that this happens time and time again.
No way that first touchdown, he had him by the face mask.
No, I agree, but they just don't. I mean, the refs have been historically bad again this year, but you got to know that you're not going to get those calls, so you have to come back and capitalize on things that you do have control over.
And look at that thing. Looking at it, you have Seattle, who, and I think a lot of teams do this too in the playoffs, where you kind of, you're not. The defense is not looking, or your opposition is not looking at players that you don't put on the field too often. In this case, Richardson. They're not looking at Richardson. They're looking at Baldwin to get a lot of these touches. So, Richardson is not on their radar. So, you just kind of toss to Richardson.
We've seen this before. Jermaine Kearse made ridiculous catches. I think it was either last postseason or the postseason before. We've seen this. I mean, we'll get to this game later today, so I can't wait to get on Eli Manning because God knows he's the luckiest postseason quarterback there ever is. But yeah,
I'll give him that.
Seattle does it, but Seattle knows how to turn it up every playoffs. They've had a little bit above average regular season, enough to make. They start off really good. They kind of tinkering here and there. Now come playoff time, regardless of who they were playing, they turned it up. They crushed Detroit, and now they're moving on to play Atlanta. And now we're going to see if Atlanta's the real deal because Atlanta's, again, has been the real deal the entire season. They have a great offense.
Matt Ryan MVP.
He probably will get the MVP. Yeah, he probably will. I mean, my vote goes to Derek Carr after seeing what the Raiders could not do with him in the lineup. And obviously, I think Brady gets the slight because he missed the 4 games, but he has the best touchdown to interception ratio in NFL history. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those 3. Whoever's going to get it. If Aaron Rodgers gets it, though, I'm slamming this mic.
I mean, if you look, when they played earlier this year, 26-22, Seattle won. But Atlanta went into Seattle, and Matt Ryan threw all over them. I mean, I think he had over 400 yards. So now they're going to be in Atlanta. And even Detroit, Ziggy Ansah even got a sack. I mean, Seattle's offensive line it's bad.
They're going to have to protect him against Beasley next week because Beasley is just a monster.
So that's what's going to expose Seattle is that offensive line. I mean, I don't think they have any – there's no first-rounders on that offensive. That guy playing left tackle had as many starts at left tackle as me. He'd never played left tackle before. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're getting by on Thomas Rawls and Russell Wilson, basically being mobile, and eventually that's going to catch up with them. But when you have a defense like that, I mean, you can get by with it for so long, but when you play a team like Atlanta with their firepower, you're going to have to score points.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go into the rest of the games.
And welcome back to Whole Nother Level right here at Old School Bar and Grill, 1991 Main Street. And we like the way you move too. We are live here at Old School again. Beautiful downtown Sarasota right next to the Hollywood 20. This is Whole Nother Level. Make sure y'all check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker.com, Raw Talk Online. And as always, the replay is up on our website, www.HNL3.com. Also want to make sure y'all check out our Super Bowl commercial is up on the website. Make sure y'all check that out, www.hnl3.com. Yet again, we got a lot to get to. I know we only got 2 games, but I want to do some coaching carousel with you, lady and gentlemen here, because I want to know who you think is going to be the best fit for a lot of these teams. I know that we talked about a little bit in the last portion of the show. Craig, let me ask you a question, because The great Al Bushman will forever say that the hottest name right now to be picked up as new head coach is one Mr. Josh McDaniels.
He's definitely up there, yes.
So,
you're asking a New England fan if he thinks Josh McDaniels is going to be a good coaching choice?
Yes, he is.
Okay,
Yes. And so is Matt Patricia.
what I'm saying is, because I have been the opposite. I have been like, Josh McDaniels needs to stay where he is at in New England and not venture off to potentially greener pastures. So I want to hear from Craig as far as, is this going to benefit you as a New England fan, number one? And then number two, and more importantly, if he decides to leave because he sees that the money would better be suited for him and it goes from being a offensive coordinator to back to being a head coach, where do you see the best fit?
Yeah, I mean, well, first and foremost, he didn't do a bad job in Denver when he had that coaching job. He made some pretty good picks. Demarius Thomas, you say what you want to say about Tim Tebow, but he drafted Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow won a playoff game, and he had a decent record as a starter in the NFL, to be honest. I bet, honestly, would Oakland Raiders would have had to have Tim Tebow yesterday or Connor Cook? I'm giving the edge to Tim Tebow.
I'd have rather had anybody than Connor
Exactly.
Cook if I'm an Oakland Raiders fan. So,
with that said, he made some other good picks as well under the regime he had there in Denver. Obviously, it didn't work out. He went back to New England as the offensive coordinator. Clearly, he's asking me would I benefit from it. No, I obviously want him to stay as offensive coordinator because he has a rapport with Tom Brady. They know each other. The offense is clicking on all cylinders. But yes, he wants to make more money. He can go do that, and he at some point wants to get back out of the shadows of Bill Belichick. I'm sure he's just hoping, is this dude going to retire I can just take over New England? That would be the best-case scenario.
Eric's trying to keep Josh McDaniels down.
I'm not trying to keep him down. I'm just saying, look at the success that the New England coaching staff has had. Now, granted, the majority of it is Bill Belichick.
Charlie Weiss, Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels. I mean,
Romeo Crennel, Mike Vrabel's a coach and the defensive line coach.
They've had coordinators come and go there, and Belichick still stays. So if McDaniels left, I mean, whoever Bill puts in that position, I don't think they don't miss a beat.
And, look, Craig hit the nail on the head here. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is Josh McDaniels, obviously it didn't work out well with him in Denver. He's at New England now, doing well for the offense. He wants another crack at it. He doesn't want to live. And I think I think you hit the nail on the head. He doesn't want to live in the shadows of Bill Belichick. Everyone knows Bill Belichick's a good coach. I'm not a New England guy. I know Bill Belichick's a good coach. It's common sense. But the point is that he wants to get another crack at the big guy, trying for another team, a team that he could probably work with. So
listen, there's a lot of good options out there.
Let's talk about who should take over. Should Anthony Lynn just step up? Yeah, I know. Josh McDaniels. Now we got the audience in the whole Josh McDaniels thing. See what you started, Great Al Bushman? I mean, honestly, Josh McDaniels, that was your guy.
Look, nobody wants the job.
Yeah,
look at the coaches that have been in Buffalo since '99, since they last went to the playoffs. You got Wade Phillips, Dick Geron, Mike Mularkey, Greg Williams, Chan Gailey, Rex Ryan. Basically because nobody else wanted that job. They tried to get Bill Cowher. They've talked about John Gruden.
So then I guess the next
they're going to have to get a coach.
The next man up would be Chip Kelly.
Look, they're going to have to. They're going to end up with a coach that's either
reuniting with LaShawn McCoy. Huh?
I'm just saying. I mean, if no one wants the job and they're giving it to the bottom of the barrel, then the next man up essentially should be Chip Kelly.
It's going to have to be a young coach that wants a head coaching opportunity, and they're going to have to try and make the best of it. They're not getting an A-list coach. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Okay.
Are they even interviewing Chip Kelly? I don't think they're even talking about interviewing him.
They tried to get the quarterback coach and also the offensive coordinator both from Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, no. You can't. No,
They're
that's not happening.
Right here, they're looking at the Cardinals offensive coordinator, the Panthers defensive coordinator, the Seahawks defensive coordinator. I think you need to go with an offensive guy. I think you need to get a quarterback. I don't think Tyrod is that bad. I think Tyrod could come back. He's the best option they have right now.
They're not giving Tyrod $30 million.
Okay, Frank, I just want you to remember that because I remember a show that we did a while back in basketball, and you said the same thing about a particular individual said, oh, no, you said RG3 would not get that fifth-year option. and Dan Snyder gave it to him. So I'm just saying, be careful.
I didn't realize how stupid Dan Snyder was at that time when I said that.
I agree, but it still happened. And with how Buffalo is going right now, they might be just that stupid to give Tyrod Taylor that money.
Well, look, I mean, I don't think E.J. Manuel is the answer either. So, I mean, well, whoever steps into that coaching slot, I mean, obviously he's going to have to work from the ground up. I don't know who the new coach is going to be, but I mean, I think that's a good point, Frank, that you need to get someone that's up and coming, someone young who's fresh, come up with some fresh ideas. Because I mean, if you get a coach. Not necessarily a big name coach, but just anyone in there that's just the same kind of speed as the last 500 coaches that Frank just mentioned for the Buffalo in the last 10 years. I mean, you're going to get the same result. So if you get someone new, someone fresh, someone who has new ideas and work from the ground up and try to find a quarterback to work around, I think maybe. That may work, but again, who this new coach is, I don't know. But again, I don't think it will be Tyrod Taylor. I mean, I think he's okay. He's a good scrambler in the pocket, but I don't think he's Buffalo's answer. And obviously, E.J. Manuel is not Buffalo's answer.
Do they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo?
Maybe.
No, they won't trade.
So,
for
Craig,
him
there's a question: where's Garoppolo going? Where's he going?
I think
he's going somewhere.
I think he either goes one of two places, either Chicago or Cleveland. To be honest, I think Cleveland has 2 first-round picks. I don't see why they wouldn't trade him to Cleveland. We know what we saw from RG3 this year. It wasn't that much. McCown's always been a backup. He can still be the backup. There's no issues there, no drop-off. You got to get some talent around him, though. Obviously, the Josh Gordon experience didn't work. Terrell Pryor, you have to either re-sign him or move on. We don't know what he's going to do on the offseason. They have a lot of questions to make.
You got to re-sign Pryor. Pryor is like one of the
question is do they give away the number 1 pick? And I highly doubt that they'll do that.
No. They did it before.
I don't think they'll give away the number 1, but they can give away their other what other 12th first round pick? Yeah. So
okay.
They got 1 and 12 overall. Why not draft either a skill position right off rip at number 1 or build the offense or defensive line and then go after a Jimmy Garoppolo? You lock down 2 positions in the first round of the draft, and then the rest of the draft is build your team, maybe bring in a couple of veteran free agents that know what's going on, know what it takes to win. I think that's what needs to be done. And obviously, Brady isn't going anywhere, so Belichick will take a first-rounder for Garoppolo. And they drafted him in the 2nd, so they're not going to take anything less than a first, I don't think.
Right, but okay, so then my question next to you is, let's say, and Kristen, you're the Cleveland girl, so I'll go right to you. With the number 1 pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, Cleveland Browns pick
Jonathan Allen.
Yes. Jonathan Allen
out of Alabama. Myles Garrett is everyone's saying the number 1, but Jonathan Allen's going to work better on our defensive line. He just is more versatile. He can go in different positions.
So you're going defense with the number 1.
Absolutely. You got to take the best guy right now. We just need help everywhere, and you got to take the best guy, and he's the best guy for our team.
New defensive coordinator, Greg Williams. Say what you want about Greg Williams. He's a good defensive coordinator.
He is.
Or do you do this? So say you guys are planning on taking the number 12 pick and shipping it to New England for Jimmy Garoppolo. Therefore, you don't need to draft a quarterback at number 1 per se. Do you let a team that needs a quarterback come up and take your first-round pick, number 1 overall?
There's no quarterback that's going to go number 1. Who's the best quarterback? Deshaun Watson?
You never know, though. Somebody could, like Deshaun Watson, come up and take him at the number 1 position.
They better not trade it. All I know is they better not trade it.
In the first top 2.
Too many.
Yeah, this is
too many picks. They got to use it.
So you're saying number 1 pick, you're going to go with Allen. Yeah. And then with the number 12, you're going to ship that one to New England to get Jimmy.
Craig said that.
I think it makes the most sense.
Well, okay, well, all right.
Craig's trying to get rid of their 12th round pick.
Well, I'm trying to get another first round pick.
But that's what I'm asking you. So you like his scenario. You take Allen with the number 1 pick, and then you ship your number 12 to New England so that you guys can obtain Garoppolo. You release, cut, do whatever you got to do with RG3. You re-sign Terrell Pryor Sr., You have to, in my opinion, franchise tag him. I'm sorry, because he's going to be the main weapon moving forward. And I think the Garoppolo Terrell Pryor Sr., that would be actually a nice combination that I would like to see.
I've seen enough from – I'm not just being a homer. I've seen enough from Jimmy Garoppolo to think that he's going to be a pretty decent quarterback in this league for a while.
Okay, but
not just regular season, preseason, and got to sit behind Tom Brady. I think that wherever he goes – if it's not Cleveland, I think it's going to be Chicago because I think Chicago is going to move on from Jay Cutler. I mean, that train, that ship has set sail per se.
Yeah, he needs
Cutler
to be on the
needs to go
red
somewhere
line
else. Whether he ends up in Buffalo or the New York Jets because they're a train wreck, why not just add them together?
I'm not saying that Garoppolo is not going to be a good quarterback, but I've also seen Matt Castle go 11-5.
Thank you.
At New England,
and that was my point.
Other guys, Ryan Mallett, that have gone to other places and
wait,
basically.
I never said that about Ryan Mallett.
But you're talking about
garbage,
guys who sat behind Brady. Look at the list of quarterbacks who have sat behind Tom Brady.
Castle also had a couple of pretty decent years in Kansas City.
But my point is, look at their body of work. Under Bill Belichick, with that New England offensive line, these gentlemen, Mallett, Castle, who was the one
Brian
guy from
Hoyer.
Michigan State, Hoyer, they all succeeded because of the organization they were in. Then they go somewhere else, and look what happens. We get to see what they're really about. So I wish Jimmy Garoppolo nothing but the best should he go to Cleveland. But please understand, and I think he needs to realize, this ain't New England. This ain't Bill Belichick. This is Cleveland. And Hugh Jackson, as great as I think he's going to be, if they don't have the offensive weapon, not even the offensive weapons, if they don't have the offensive line.
I mean, let's be honest.
If they don't have the offensive line to protect Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to just fall into that list of guys who played under Brady, then went somewhere else, and were not the true talent that we thought they were.
I'd rather have a guy, though, who's played and has experience. We keep drafting these guys, Manziel and Quinn, and just drafting quarterbacks with no experience, and they can't do anything. I don't want a Deshaun Watson. I want a guy who's been behind Tom Brady.
Most times it takes too long to develop the quarterback, and by then you have to have pieces around that quarterback in order for them to succeed. We've seen it before. If you draft a quarterback that has no pieces around him, he's going to fail. It doesn't matter who you are.
Well, I mean, the thing is, too, I mean, if you bring Garoppolo to Cleveland, I mean, he has Corey Coleman, he has Terrell Pryor. I mean, these are two agile receivers, two
Gary
quick
Barnidge.
receivers. Yeah, Gary Barnidge. So he has the tools the tools, if you will, to work with to kind of generate some flow into that offense.
And then bring a couple of veteran wide receivers in, or, lock down Joe Thomas on the offensive line. You need to do that first and foremost. You brought Jamie Collins in to help out the defense. He's going to be in his second year, so he's going to be good. So you solidify the linebacker position. You just go out and you got to build the offense and defensive line. Just what Dallas Cowboys did. They were struggled for years. Yeah. And finally they said, you know what, I'm going to stop trying to get all these other skill positions and build the offense and defensive line. Now they have the best offensive line in football, and they have a sneaky good defensive line all of a sudden.
As long as Sean Lee is healthy, that Dallas defense is stout. Without Sean Lee, I'm sorry.
That's the linebacker position.
Yeah. But that's what Cleveland has to do. I completely agree with you. In my opinion, Cleveland should spend this draft beefing up their offensive line, especially if you're going to do the moves that we have talked about here on Whole Nother Level. And then they also need to build that defense. Get a young team together and say, okay, this is what we're going to rebuild, but we have an experienced quarterback who knows the game and who is someone who we can put our trust in, basically.
Yeah.
All right?
I think we should be the GM.
There you go.
That was a whole lot of talk about the Cleveland Browns.
Well, hey, we got Cleveland.
Well, you got some fans of the Browns.
We got Cleveland
as
fans.
The coaching carousel continues.
We got Cleveland fans in the building, so we got to cater to our fans today.
Brownies.
But
so you can still make you still have a pretty good draft pick, and then you have Jared Goff. So you get somebody in there that can groom the quarterback position and really work well with him. Listen, the defense is good.
Aaron
Donald
problem.
is nasty.
Yep.
The defensive line can get to the quarterback.
Quinn and Brockers are two of the best.
So I think I actually think that's the best coaching scenario. Like the team that would fit best with Josh McDaniels is the LA Rams. Listen, they just moved. It's a new stadium.
Yep.
I mean the whole 9 yards.
Okay. All right. So you all are in agreement here is what I'm taking here is Josh McDaniels. We can finally put this bed to rest. Josh McDaniels will go to the LA Rams. That is the best fit for him where he will be successful.
They need to hire an offensive coach, somebody that can try and develop and work with Jared Goff. So if they hire anybody other than an offensive coach, I'd be shocked.
And I think Kyle Shanahan's going to Denver.
And look, you got to utilize Todd Gurley to the best of his ability as well. So, and obviously we saw that wasn't being done this season. So,
okay.
Simple as that.
All right. Well, with that, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into the two games that happened here today. We're going to talk about Frank's Pittsburgh Steelers going up against Miami. And then, of course, Dwayne's New York Football Giants, the Road Warrior team that they are, heading into Lambeau to face Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. Teams are getting hot at the right time. We're going to give you the breakdown. You're listening to us, Whole Nother Level. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Whole Nother Level right here on Spreaker.com, Raw Talk Online, iTunes, YouTube, and always the replay is up on our website, www.hnl3.com. Yeah, I know. We're all coming back here, just kind of running back. The Great L. Bushman's kind of directed traffic here today. We're just following him. He's on Facebook Live right now. Big shout-out to everybody here with us today at Old School. We really appreciate y'all sticking with us. All right, so let's get to these two games. We got about 30 minutes. We'll break down these two games for you, and let's start it off. Frank.
Yes.
It's time, my brother.
It is.
It is truly the Killer Bees show today. They are hosting Matt Moore, not Ryan Tannehill. Matt Moore,
Yep.
Jay Ajayi, Kenny Stills, and the Adam Gase Miami Dolphins. So, Frank, talk to me about this game.
Look, the best thing that Mike Tomlin has going for him for this week is that he doesn't have to give any big speeches because Miami thumped them the first game. I mean, the score 30-15, and it wasn't even that close. So this is a chance for them to get a little redemption. Vegas knows it. Look at the spread. I mean, it's a double-digit
to
spread.
11.5.
It's a double-digit spread.
And wait, hold on. Look at this. Ryan Shazier
The Ohio State University.
on the field
Aaron.
with no shirt on.
Hey, Eric, if you had a body like that, you would too, bro. You know all the cameras are on you.
Yeah, if I looked like that, I'd walk around probably without a shirt. But
After missing 4 games, he still had the season that he had, and he's in the MVP consideration. It's not even a comparison. I don't know why you're asking me this.
I'm asking you this because I needed your opinion, but since you want to just throw it out there, she's definitely. I asked for spunk today. I definitely got it from her.
You got it.
All right.
I told you, playoffs.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's in playoff mode. Yep. All right, Dwayne. So then, talk to me about this game.
Dwayne, compare ODB.
We're not there yet. No, we're not there yet. What are you expecting?
Sammy Coates.
Shane Vereen, and Le'Veon Bell. Even though Shane Vereen's a giant, though.
What are you expecting
from
today's game, Dwayne?
From who?
Pittsburgh and Miami.
Oh, I expect Pittsburgh to win. That's just straight up. I mean, there's no way. First of all, is it Matt Less or Matt Moore playing quarterback this game?
Matt Moore.
Matt Moore? No Matt Less?
Jesus.
Matt Moore? Anyway, yeah, that was terrible. Anyway, Pittsburgh.
That didn't go
Pittsburgh
so
is just too. Well, yeah, it did. But Pittsburgh is just too much for Miami. Obviously, Frank making some crystal ball predictions, if you will, that Houston will play New England. Obviously, he's predicting that the Dolphins will lose to the Steelers, not because he's a Steelers fan, because the Steelers just have too much firepower offensively for Miami just to do anything. And Jay Ajayi, you mentioned Jay Ajayi off the top.
I did.
Yeah, he might get maybe 80. He'll be sub 100 yards this game, but Pittsburgh is just too much.
The Dolphins didn't win a road game this year against a team with over a 500 record. So, they got that going against them. This is Le'Veon Bell's first playoff game. This is the first playoff game where Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben have all been on the field.
Oh, so, it's going to be a slaughter.
I'm expecting, well, look, with the temperature there and the winds, I think it's going to be a heavy dose of Le'Veon Bell today.
Yeah, I think the temperature is going to play a big part of this game, especially I think it's 15 degrees right now.
Hold on.
A warm weather team going into Pittsburgh, playing in the inclement weather.
A great coach said today, and I heard him say this, if you are concerning yourself with weather, you're focused on the wrong thing.
I'm not concerning myself. That's why I'm here today, even though I'm chilly. But they might be concerned
but that's
going
my point.
into Pittsburgh.
If Miami is focused on the weather, they are focused on the wrong thing. Miami needs to look at that tape. And granted, like you said, there was no Shazier in the game when they played each other earlier this season. However, what Miami can do is they can look at this game and say, what worked for us and what crucial.
Jarvis Landry and Artie Burns is going to be a big one because, can Artie Burns cover him?
Right.
I mean, because, look, even though the Steelers' defense has played better as of late, during this win streak, it's since the Miami game, basically, when they got pushed around and embarrassed, and let's be honest, they did.
Right.
They've actually been
They're undefeated.
They've been somewhat respectable in that regard. So, and look, Cameron Wake was all over Big Ben in that game, so the offensive line is going to have a
when they got wrecked 30-15 in the regular season, Le'Veon Bell got held to 51 yards rushing on 10 carries. He had 6 passes out of the backfield. Yep. Landry had a big game. Obviously, Ajayi ran for over 200 yards. And if you want to look at quarterbacks, I don't really think it's that big of a drop-off. Ryan Tannehill to Matt Moore. I think Ryan Tannehill is more of a game manager. I've always said that his entire career, and that's what Matt Moore basically does. In the first match,
from the Miami standpoint in the quarterback position. For Pittsburgh, obviously it's a big drop-off from Big Ben to Landry Jones. So I think a key thing here is to reiterate, Big Ben has to stay healthy.
He has to stay on his feet and be successful. But again, he has Le'Veon Bell. He's got Antonio Brown. I mean,
I like Eli Rogers in the slot.
That was my next question.
I really think that he, as a rookie, come up big in situations this year. They didn't get nearly what they wanted to from Sammy Coates. He had one good game and then literally has dropped off the face of the Pittsburgh earth, if you will. Hamilton's been doing pretty decent. But I like Eli Rogers to have a pretty decent game in the slot.
Okay.
No Ladarius Green, but also no Maxwell. And I think if Maxwell was playing, Miami would have a little bit better chance. I'm going to predict a score of Pittsburgh winning by 8. I think whoever takes Miami in the plus 11.5 that it is right now hits that bet. I think Pittsburgh wins by 8.
Okay. Kristen, let me ask you. You got Pittsburgh and you got Miami. Who you have winning this game?
I think Pittsburgh, but I think they win heavily. You're going to lose your money today, Craig. You took Miami in the points, right?
Right.
Plus 11.5.
And you get about a point too, or half point. So I think
12,
Pittsburgh is just too good. They're just going to demolish them.
Yeah, Pittsburgh against the spread without question. I agree with Kristen.
All right. Frank?
They need to win big to get that game last week. They played like garbage last week, and I don't care that Big Ben didn't play.
Neither did Le'Veon
They
Bell.
were against the Browns.
Neither did Antonio Brown.
They had pretty good Browns.
They didn't show up basically, and that's on Mike Tomlin for all his strengths as a motivator and a defensive coach. That's where that team falls short at times. Motivation. They didn't even show up at all for that Miami game.
They didn't show up for the Philadelphia game this year either. And
exactly.
It's questionable if they showed up for the first Miami game.
Yeah. So
they've been up and down this season.
They're inconsistent in a lot of games against sub 500 teams.
I agree with you.
Under Mike Tomlin. So they need to get that taste out of their mouth from last week, and this needs to be a dominant performance going forward.
Look, Pittsburgh. I can agree with you. Pittsburgh hasn't been consistent with some of the, especially Miami against Miami. But guess what? Pittsburgh has been consistent in the past in the playoffs, especially last year. I know obviously they lost in the second round last year, but still, I mean, with all the injuries they had last year, the point is Pittsburgh has been here before. They have pedigree. Mike Tomlin has been here before, so this game should be a no-brainer.
Okay,
they have been, but Big Ben is 11-6 in playoff games. But if you look at their last 5, they're 1-4. And that one win was against Cincinnati, which shouldn't have been a win last year because by all accounts, Cincinnati had that game won. So their last 5 playoff appearances, Pittsburgh could easily be 0-5. So this needs to be it needs to be a dominant performance.
Yeah, but again, in the past, remember the injuries that have plagued Pittsburgh. So I think that was a part of the reason why they lost so many games.
Okay, but here's the one thing you always have to remember when it comes to Pittsburgh, and I'm talking about strictly just this season. We talked about the up and down. Yeah, week 3, they got trounced by Philadelphia. The first time they played Miami, Miami just said, we're putting the wood to you. You're not just going to come in and punk us. But since then, they were 4-5 at that point. Since then,
they've won 7 in a row.
They're 7 in a row. And Craig, you are Mr. Momentum himself when it comes to trends. This team is trailing in an upward direction. Now, granted, I know we all have Pittsburgh winning this game. I mean, Great Al Bushman just nod and smile. Yes, you have Pittsburgh winning. Okay. But what I'm saying to you is, let's not ignore how scary good Pittsburgh is. They are. Simply, they are. We want to pick apart their defense and say, okay, we need to see more from these guys. Yeah. Shazier needs to have a big game today and be able to stop Jay Ajayi. I see that happening. What I'm looking at is the one key factor. Big Ben, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown will all be on the field together. When those 3 guys are in sync and that chemistry is there, I don't care who you are. The Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, are the scariest team right now in the AFC. I've already predicted that it's going to be a Pittsburgh-New England AFC championship game. And whoever comes out of that, and I'll get to that pick when we get there, but I think whoever comes out of that is winning the Super Bowl this year. It's going to be an AFC Super Bowl champion this year. But Miami, the only thing Miami can possibly do is somehow, some way, they need to get Kenny Stills to have more than just one big play.
Well, he's pretty much boomer bust. Okay, so hypothetically, let's ask you this then. If he does in the first quarter or the first drive or whatever break open a 60-yard touchdown and Pittsburgh gets down 7-0, do you expect this team to bounce back and respond, or is this something that they're going to kind of hit a hole? Because they got blown out in Philadelphia, didn't even get off the plane basically. The first game against Miami, they lost by 15. Everybody's playing, every single one of their horses. So Miami can kind of, if they get a 7-0 or a 10-0 lead,
yeah, but
they can rush the passer.
You're
they
talking
haven't
about when early
Wake.
in the season, their defense has just progressively improved and improved. Well, Week 10, they were 25th in points. Now they're 14th in points. They were 14th in yards. Now they're 7th in yards. I mean, their defense is getting better and better. They have Shazier back.
How many defensive starters rested last week?
That's a good question.
Not that many.
Yeah.
And they almost lost to Cleveland.
To answer your question, let's say first drive, Miami gets the ball. Matt Moore slings a 40-yarder to Kenny Stills, and he takes it in for a touchdown, and they go up 7-0. You know what's going to happen that next series? Big Ben's going to find Antonio Brown for a 50-yarder and say, you aren't coming into our house and putting up more yards than us drive for drive. I think that Miami needs to score every single time they get the ball. I know that speaks to common sense, but in this game, as pivotal as it is, going against Pittsburgh, one of the most dominant teams in the NFL, if you don't score at least something every single drive and you give Pittsburgh the opportunity to play at home with their stands and their players, forget about it.
I'll tell you what they need to do, though, is they can't settle for field goals against a team like Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh's going to score touchdowns.
Yeah, don't be Alex Smith. So you better score touchdowns.
If their first two drives, they get down there and kick field goals both times and they're up like 6-0. All it takes is one touchdown, and they're already down. So they need to score touchdowns in order to be in this game.
Right, but I agree with you, Eric. I mean, the fact is that they're going to automatically – Pittsburgh is automatically going to have that mindset where they have to score on every drive anyhow. And frankly, it doesn't matter if Miami first drive kind of goes down the field, scores a touchdown. I think Pittsburgh has the mindset, like I said, to kind of score every drive. It'll go tit for tat if that's the case.
All right. Well, let's get to the game. Tabitha, we need you up here for a second, please.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yes.
The hot seat.
Yes. We're bringing you up here because it is your time. This is your game. You got here. This is it. It's playoff time. This is Aaron Rodgers, one of the hottest teams in the NFL. I'm actually going to get you up here. You need to take my seat for a second because I need to talk to you. And by the way, you're sitting next to Dwayne, who's a Giants fan, so be careful.
Might be some blows here. I don't.
Dwayne is
wearing USF colors on game day. Go Bulls!
Oh yeah.
So yeah, playoff time. It's gonna be a good game today.
So this is the game that if you come to this bar each and every Sunday, you know that this is a Packers bar. Yes, it is. They got a big screen in the back. Steve, you know what? You had your opportunity with the Detroit Lions. You couldn't get it done. I'm sorry. The fact that you, Steve, could not get up for your own NFC North Championship game at Ford Field, I still was like, well, maybe they could upset the Seahawks. That didn't happen last night. So, Steve, I'm sorry. Your season, like my season, it's over. We're going to move on. So, anyhow, it's been over. You're right. But I had a rookie quarterback, and you had Matthew Stafford. Deal with that. Tabitha.
Why are we still talking about Detroit?
We're moving on. We're moving on. We are moving on. Tabitha, this game, I have said that whoever wins between Aaron Rodgers and Eli Manning, I'm saying is going to be the team to represent in the Super Bowl.
NFC side, yep.
So let me talk to you. This team now has gone on a tear. Aaron Rodgers getting hot at the right time. What do you expect today? Aaron Rodgers going up against a hungry Giants defense.
Well, everyone's talking about the last couple times we've played them in the playoffs at Lambeau and how they're on the streak, this and that. But, they're two different teams, both sides of the ball. They're two separate teams from back then. So we'll see. We played them in Week 5, and with even our starters out, that was the week Lacey went down, and, our run game pretty much sucked the rest of the season. But, yeah, so, we beat them then, so hopefully we can hold on and beat them today.
Okay, so you just mentioned it. Giants has had some success at Lambeau. Eli Manning, 2-0 at Lambeau Field in the playoffs. Do you think that – and you mentioned you think Green Bay is a different team that that may beat the
and
Giants
so,
this time
and
around.
so are the Giants too.
Right,
Completely
right.
different team.
But the Giants' pass defense has kind of progressed throughout the season with Eli Apple, Jenkins.
Yeah, the defense is tough. I mean, I don't see Aaron Rodgers giving away any interceptions today.
Right, and obviously our hometown boy is not in the game, but we have another hometown boy in the game, but on our side, not on your side.
Who?
Cromartie.
Oh, is he really?
Yes, he is,
know
and
that.
he's playing on the defense.
Hi.
So
19 points in their last 4 games. So hopefully that's a trend because 19 points is not going to win today against Green Bay. To your credit, Dwayne, Eli does have as many playoff wins in Lambeau as Aaron Rodgers does. So, they at least know that they can go in there and win. For me, this matchup, Jared Cook, I expect to have a big game today. As good as New York's pass defense has been, their coverage on the tight end has been near basically the bottom of the league. So I expect that's going to be a matchup. And as far as pressure goes, Aaron Rodgers' completion percentage goes up when he's under pressure. He likes it. He's mobile. So I think that's going to negate the pass rush a little bit. I got Green Bay winning.
All right. Give me a score.
27-20.
27-20. So the Packers, 27. Giants get over the 19, but still no victory. Kristen, what do you got?
Eli is just not Eli this year. He's misfiring. He's overthrowing. He's got Beckham who's running his routes. It's hard for me to pick this game, though. For some reason, I could see the Giants just pulling it off because that's what they do. But I think the Packers, in order for them to lose, they're going to have to beat themselves. They're going to have an interception, turnovers, poor clock management. And I don't see them doing that. It's in Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers is so hot right now. I think they blow him out by more than that, like 34-20 almost.
34-20.
Wow.
Craig, you've been silent this whole time, my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, Eli Manning has been Eli Manning his entire career. This is what he does. He has an average to a little bit above average regular season. In the postseason, he knows how to turn it up. I don't know what it is. He's the luckiest postseason quarterback I've ever seen. And the receivers that make catches are no names basically in the regular season. David Tyree comes to mind. But he continues to do it over and over and over again. And let's be honest, the two times that this team has made Super Bowl runs, they backed into the playoffs at 9-7. They're actually 11-5 this year. They didn't back into anything. They already had it locked up the final week.
Yeah.
Still played their starters and kept the Redskins out. This is a team that's not just getting it done on offensive end. They struggle a little bit from time to time. You said 19 points, but the defense has really improved.
Yeah.
The money that they did spend on Janoris Jenkins and company. Landon Collins is playing. He got picked to go, I think, first team all pro safety.
Yeah.
This is a different team. Granted, the Green Bay Packers ran the table to get into the postseason, so this is going to be the best game of the weekend. I think everybody expects that.
Yeah.
And it's about time because yesterday's games just pretty much stunk. Okay?
They did. Who you got?
I got the Packers winning, and I think it's going to be a really close game at 31-27. So I think for betting purposes, New York Giants plus 5.5.
Okay. Dwayne, this is your team. Go ahead.
Well, look, I mean, we mentioned, these guys mentioned about, the pass defense. I mentioned about the pass defense. Eli Manning in the postseason versus the regular season. Obviously, the tale of two different Eli Mannings. Kristen mentioned Eli Manning. It's been 5 years since Eli Manning has won a Super Bowl. He's getting older. Obviously, an older Eli Manning, but I would have to say that there's a more experienced Eli Manning that's playing as well.
Okay.
So, again, a tale of two Eli Mannings. But Green Bay, I think Green Bay is a great team. But the thing is, for some reason, the Giants find a way somehow in the playoffs to win. And I think they do come out on top this game. Again, Frank mentioned 2-0 in Lambeau, Eli Manning. I think he does it again. 3-0 Eli
Eric,
Manning.
I got to tell you.
And I think it'll be a 3-point game. I say about 31.
28.
28.
Okay, so you're almost my score, yeah.
Go
Eric,
ahead.
I got to tell you, I tend not to agree with you too much, but for some reason, I think the winner of this game is probably going to represent the NFC.
Oh, yeah.
in the Super Bowl.
But
that's also me not giving Dallas probably the credit they deserve the entire season.
Listen, we'll give Dallas the props they deserve when Dallas
and
is
Atlanta
playing.
needs to show me in the postseason that they can do something before
And that's what
think
I've been
it's a
saying
different
all year
Atlanta.
long, and we'll definitely get into that next week
Neither of
in
these teams
divisional championship weekend.
really care about running the ball. I mean, neither of these teams have good running games.
Well, yeah,
so
Giants don't have a good running game, so they don't care. I mean,
You're absolutely right. Listen, to everything that you're saying, Dwayne, I will agree with you. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I just feel like really Eli is lucky when he goes to Lambeau. Okay? I feel like the Packers today not only know and understand what's going on, but more importantly, they realize that it's called the Vince Lombardi Trophy for a reason. And I think the Packers are going to start and make their way into bringing back the trophy that is from their coach. So I say the Packers win today. I'll agree a close game, but I'm going by a touchdown. I'll say they get over the 19-point hump. I'll say 31-24. But I really expect Janoris Jenkins on Jordy Nelson to be the key matchup of the day. And I think that's what we're going to see.
Randall Cobb could have a big game today. He's been kind of banged up the last couple of games. He's had a couple of weeks now to kind of regain his health. And then Devontae Adams has really stepped up to be in actually a number one receiver conversation. They almost have 3 number ones over there now. So that's a pretty scary offense that the Packers have.
And I got to mention it, too. Craig was the only person that mentioned on the Giants side Landon Collins. Think Landon Collins safety. He's one of the key members of this Pats defense. I mean, he's had multiple games where he's had multiple picks. So, I mean, look for him. I mean, he's got to step up for the Giants to become victorious in this particular game.
All right, that's going to wrap it up here for Wild Card Weekend here at Whole Nother Level. We want to thank y'all for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate it. We'll be back next Sunday for Divisional Championship. We're going to get into those 4 games as well. So for our girl Kristen, Frank, Craig, Dwayne, the great Al Bushman, thank you so much, my brother. This is your man Eric. And until next week, we have taken you guys to a whole nother level. We'll see you next time.
Mate, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.